Today I am doing a review for the new Spider-Man Homecoming movie. First, right off the bat, there will be spoilers for the movie in this review, so if you have not seen it yet and you don't want spoilers, do not watch this video. And it's going to be a pretty freestyle video. I don't have any notes or anything. I'm going off. Just sort of gonna talk about what I thought about the movie, why I liked it and everything. So let's get started. Okay, so first off, I just want to put out there that my first impression of the movie was that I absolutely loved it. I loved Tom Holland's version of Peter Parker. I thought he was funny and he was still dorky. He's younger like Peter Parker is supposed to be. He really played the high school character very well. I've seen a lot of comments online how the reason this story felt a little different and why people liked it because it was a little bit different was that it wasn't such a high stakes story. Some people have said that's why they didn't like the plot as much, but I agree with those who did like it because it was a lot more it was a smaller scale story. It wasn't, the world's gonna end because of this, villain. And for Spider-Man, I think that really works better, at least especially at this beginning of his story. So I really liked the plot. I liked the villain. Well, the villain probably was my least favorite part. I liked his backstory and I liked the twist with him, that he was what's her face's dad. I already forgot her name. Whatever, Liz, I think. That was a twist I didn't see coming until right before he answered the door and it was revealed. So that was interesting and I liked that. I don't think I know anything about the Vulture. I've never heard of that villain, and but I'm not super versed in the Spider-Man universe, so but I did like how he was portrayed in the film and I liked how the story played out. As for the other characters in this film other than Peter Parker, I loved all of them, to be honest. They were all very entertaining. His friend was super funny, especially when he had the mask, the Spider-Man mask on. That made me laugh. The girl that he liked, I felt was a little bit two-dimensional, but I get it because there's only so much time to develop all these characters, and she wasn't exactly a major character that needed to be developed because from what it looks like she's only going to be in this one. She's not going to be in any of the next movies. So she just I didn't connect with her at all. I had no emotional attachment to her. I didn't care that her dad was evil, whatever. And then Zendaya's character, I loved. I thought she was so funny. One thing is, I wish she had gotten to play a little bit of a bigger part, but I also think that they were just sort of setting her up in this first one, and she'll be more of a main character later on. It was very interesting at the end. She says, "My friends call me MJ," so I'm really interested to see if that's just sort of a reference to Mary Jane in the Spider-Man universe, or if she's going to fill that spot as the Mary Jane character. I personally, in the original Tobey Maguire films, Spider-Man films, I don't like the Mary Jane character. I don't hate Kristen Dunst. I actually really like her. She's done some really cool films over the years, but her character in those movies, she just bothers me, and I even the character in the comics just as a whole, I don't really love her. So I was excited that they weren't gonna do Mary Jane in this film. So it's going to be interesting to see if she is going to be MJ, the MJ, or if it's just something else. But I'm pretty sure Zendaya's character isn't going to annoy me like Mary Jane in the first 3 Spider-Man films does. The only other characters in there were Aunt May, which she didn't have a huge role, but I liked her, I guess, and whatever. She definitely had some funny comedic timing things. And then there was Flash as well, which at first I completely didn't realize that he was Flash because he looks so different than what Flash has always been traditionally portrayed as looking. But I mean, that's totally fine. It was cool to see such diversity in this movie. I really liked that. And then the other main character obviously was Iron Man, which we're all very familiar with, of course. I liked the role he played in this story. I liked that by having this sort of mentor-esque character, it allowed Peter to be still a kid, but he's obviously a kid struggling between the world of wanting to be that superhero adult, you know, figure and still being stuck in high school kind of thing. I think the movie as a whole played really well with those two, like, opposing sides. I really, really liked how they did that. And I think, honestly, that conflict, I think, was the most important in the movie, not even, like, the conflict against the villain. I think the conflict between these two sides of Peter's life is what really mattered. And I think that's what they intended to be the most important part of the film that, like, shone through. I said it already, but just to say again, and to sort of compare Tom's rendition of Spider-Man to the other ones, in my opinion, Tom Holland's Spider-Man has really hit it the best. I really did enjoy Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man movies. I thought they were really good, and I loved Emma Stone's performance in those movies as well. But I do think people were right in that he was a little bit too cool to play Spider-Man, if that makes any sense. He wasn't quite as awkward and, like, weird as he should have been. But nonetheless, I still enjoyed those films. They were a little bit dark for Spider-Man. I think Spider-Man needs to have a little bit more humor, and I think that's where Tom Holland really hit, like, the right note, because he was young and funny and, like, just full of life. I think that's what all the other Spider-Man films were missing. They're all good, but they're just missing, like, that spark. And I think Tom Holland and the rest of this cast and crew and directors, everyone, really got that, like, spark of life in this film. How it compares to the original Tobey Maguire ones, I was never a huge fan of the Tobey Maguire ones. Like, I watched them as a kid because I loved Spider-Man, but, like, looking back, those aren't really my favorite Marvel films. Tobey Maguire does a really good job, but he's also not how I would imagine Spider-Man myself. I think Tom Holland is really the epitome of Spider-Man for me. And I'm so glad that they, after these, you know, couple tries, that I feel like they've really hit home with this one, and that it's gonna be the most successful. And I think, in my opinion, that's probably partly because the best part is that he gets to interact now with the rest of these Marvel characters. And I think that was partly what the other ones were missing, which was out of their control, the people who make the movie, that it was out of their control that they couldn't interact with the rest of the Avengers. But now that they can, just because of, like, you know, the details that have finally gotten sorted out, I think it'll be really great to see Spider-Man really grow into himself and become part of the Avengers. And I think that's gonna be a while, but I'm interested to see what they'll do with the next Spider-Man movie. I'm assuming there's gonna be a next one. I don't know if there's been an official announcement or anything, but we know that he will be in the Infinity War movies, which I'm very excited about. And yeah, I'm just excited to see him interact with all of these characters again. As for one last thing, the end credit scenes, or, like, the biggest, you know, stuff at the end, both the end credit scenes weren't too crazy. Like, they didn't leave me on the edge of my seat. The last one, where with the Vulture in the prison talking to the guy from Orphan Black, whatever, it was like I think it was just showing a little bit of redemption for the Vulture, I guess. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it was either redemption, he didn't want Peter to get hurt, or he's got an even more evil plan for later. We'll see which one. I would like to know, I don't know his name, but the guy from Orphan Black that he talked to said he had some friends on the outside, and I'm curious to see if maybe those friends on the outside aren't just, like, regular criminals, but, like, villain criminals. That'd be interesting to see, and I could see that maybe being a plotline for the next Spider-Man film. And then the second in credit scene was Captain America's, like, PSAs. That was pretty funny. It wasn't like he joked. He's like, was this really worth waiting till the end for blah blah blah? But it made me laugh, and it was cool, and I can't help but smile seeing Chris Evans. So that is my review for the new Spider-Man Homecoming film. I think I talked about everything I wanted to talk about. Not really sure. I was kind of just word vomiting everywhere, just everything I could remember. I really, really did love the film. I'm going to see it again tomorrow with some family friends, and it was really good overall. And I hope that you all enjoyed it as well, and I cannot wait to see more of Spider-Man in the MCU.